Despite the overall poor reception of Natlan from its story to character design and so on, when looking at it strictly from a gameplay point of view, version 5 might be the most meta-changing year we've had so far in terms of its units, demonstrating a noticeable increase in performance and capability across its characters in contrast to what we had before. Normally, when I update the best teams video each year, you can expect to find 1 or 2 making a reappearance. Not so the case in this video. We have a lot of stuff to go over, so without further ado, today I'll be updating my video on the strongest teams in Genshin Impact as of version 5.5. Before we get into the video though, I want to give a brief shout out to our sponsor for today, Summoners War Sky Arena, here to celebrate their 11th anniversary. Summoners War is a turn-based RPG where you collect monsters and form your own teams, just like how Genshin is big on team building, Sky Arena is even more so. With over 1,000 monsters to choose from, the customization is quite literally endless. It's one of the most popular mobile RPGs with over 240 million downloads across the globe, and it has a ton of free-to-play content and events for you to enjoy without dropping a single dime. As mentioned before, they're celebrating 11 years of release with a ton of events to commemorate it. First off with the free stuff, they're giving away up to 200 free 11th anniversary scrolls which can summon a 3 to 5 star monster and includes the premium light and dark monsters alongside the usual fire, water, and wind ones. They're also giving a free 5-star and 4-star monster of your choice that comes fully awakened, max level, and max skilled. What's more, each selected monster up to a total of 10 will have their Hall of Heroes dungeon open for 1 week, which means 10 weeks of Hall of Heroes customized to your liking. They're really going above and beyond for this anniversary, so if you're interested in checking out Sky Arena, you can use my link in the description below and throw in their special promo code Summoners War 11-year anniversary birthday gift, abbreviated on screen, for a huge amount of free stuff. Thanks again to Summoners War for sponsoring the video, but for now, back on topic. As per usual, my plan is to include 2 honorable mentions alongside the main 5. Expectedly, there have never been this many high-performing teams in the game due to the fact that there have never been this many top-tier characters in the game. Natlan's been raising both the bar and floor this time around, with almost all of their characters being either strong at worst or format warping at best. Selecting the best teams is of course mostly subjective, and it comes down to what you value more than others. In reference to the title, when you think of strongest teams, the first thing to come to mind would be DPS ceiling, which does indeed matter. However, other factors can come into play as well. Uptime fluidity, AoE or single target, substitution options, and so on, all of which lend themselves to a better performing team. There's also the question of if we should include constellations in the discussion. How would that work? For the sake of simplicity, I'm going to take a more general approach to this topic by listing teams that, in my personal opinion, are strong, practical, and consistent above all else. Constellations will apply as needed, so if I'm referring to something that needs a constellation, I will mention it. That being said, 4 stars will be at C6. Lastly, not to sound like a broken record, but just because a team's not mentioned in this video doesn't mean they're not good. These are just the 5, or 7 I should say, that are the best performing ones at the moment. If you think there are other teams worth mentioning, you're welcome to share them in the comments down below. Now let's get on with the honorable mentions first, shall we? First team I want to go over is Chosa Hypercarry, or just Chosa. The main draw of this character is her ability to assimilate the elements of her other 3 party members, that is assuming they're a sortable element, being Pyro, Hydro, Cryo, and Electro. When mounting her gun, she's capable of firing multiple elemental shots at once, allowing her to effectively trigger her own elemental reactions without her team needing to do anything. As such, the primary goal of Chosa is to get 3 different elements on her team, and for those party members to contribute as much DPS as they can, either in their own way or by buffing her. So with that in mind, the 2 staples are definitely going to be Mavika and Zilali, covering 2 elements and offering exponential increases to Chosa's power. For your final option, you need to carry either a Hydro or Electro to round out the group. If you have C2 Chosa, you only need 2, but even then, it's still worthwhile to go for the other ones. That leaves you with Farina, Auroran, and Tianzan. Obviously, Farina is more in the damage boosting department, so if you were to take her, Zilali, and Bennett, you'd get more power loaded into Chosa, but at the expense of less team damage. The biggest strength of this team is of course the sheer single target damage it has. Naturally though, it comes at the cost of poor AoE faculty. I'm not docking that many points off her for that though. There's another single target attacker I'll be mentioning in the top 5. I would say another notable con with their team is that her party requirements can be pretty stringent, since you can't just go like 1 Animo, 3 Pyro or something. They have to be different elements. Still though, an excellent boss killer and a fun character to use IMO. Second honorable mention goes to Kanish and his Burning Squad. Not the most popular character in pull value, but surprisingly one of the strongest in the game, and fairly straightforward to play too. When paired with Emily, your goal is to cook the out of everything, so a standard lineup will consist of Yanzan, Emily, and Mavika. In case you're wondering why Mavika and not Xiangling, it's mostly for consistency, and besides, Mavika's skill doesn't cost a billion energy to use. Simply put, you want to burn the living hell out of everything that moves, set fire to the world, then sit back and say this is fine. Emily's ridiculous uptime and very high personal damage make her a better choice than Nahida in this regard as well, especially because Emily herself is also a burning specialist. So you have no reason to not pair the two together. And then of course Kanish is all about attack scaling, and Tian-san can power him up in that department while carrying Cinder City, letting you go more DPS on Mavika. You can also just go Bennett when in doubt, that kid's the most broken unit in the game at this point. A decently easy team to play and doesn't require too much investment to get going. But this team is also pretty single target oriented, and you're missing out a ton if you don't have Emily, who's an incredibly niche character in her own right, so I can't really recommend him for everyone, but if you do have both of them, they're assuredly a top contender. Okay, now that we're done with the honorable mentions, let's get straight into the top 5. And remember, this is not ordered. I feel like I have to repeat this every single time and yet people still think they're ordered. Anyway, time to get started. The newest member of the top 5 and quite possibly the strongest team in the game is going to be Mavika Hypercarry. Natlan units are notoriously party restricted due to their unique playstyles, and Mavika is no different, having an elemental burst not contingent on energy like everyone else, but fighting spirit, which can be charged by either normal attacking or consuming Night Soul, implicitly forcing you to field other Natlan units along with her. Fortunately, there's plenty of incentive to do so, not just in that it aligns with what you were gonna do in the first place, but the payoff makes it absolutely worth doing so anyway. The best team you can get from Mavika consists of herself, Zilali, Bennett, and Dian-san, 2 additional Night Soul users, 3 DPS boosting supports, 3 sustain components healing from Bennett and Dian-san plus shielding from Zilali, and a forward melt enabler through Zilali as well. Put together, this team is with no caveat, no asterisk, the best team in the game, having the highest DPS ceiling owing to Mavika's incredible vertical scaling. Alternative choices for this team can be pretty hard to come by though, since no one can really replace either Zilali or Yan-san except for Shilonen. I mean, you can, you realistically just need to get someone who can run goals in the city and preferably a Vaporize or Melt Driver, but at least 2 more Night Soul users are helpful for getting more full power ultimates off on the Pyro Archon. One other downside is that Mavika doesn't have the highest uptime compared to other attackers, so she is not meant for long drawn out fights. That being said, I'd like to see a boss or Abyss Chamber tanky enough to last even 2 seconds against her, because this bitch can do damage in the 6 to 7 figure mark. Assuming it's just one wave, you'll clear floors in record time. She may not be the best designed Archon, but power is power no matter what form it takes. Second team's gonna be Novelet Hypercarry, and the only returning team from last year's video. A number of you might be quick to write in the comments how Novelet's damage isn't really that high, especially compared to what else we have, and I get it. What really makes him shine though are consistency and coverage. Novelet may not have the highest ceiling, but he sure as hell has one of the highest floors in the game. Combine that with the sheer ease of use of this guy and it's gonna be a while before he officially gets knocked off the list. Despite being a returning veteran, his teams have actually changed quite a bit. To no one's surprise, you still want to pair up the Hydro Sovereign with the Hydro Archon, being a perfect match for each other synergistically speaking. But from then on, you can go about things however you please. Since the 2024 edition, he's received a number of upgrades to his arsenal, not the least of which being, once again, Skull's Cinder City, making his new best healer Shilonen. Prior, Jean or Xianyun would be your main choices for the healer slot, but neither of them really helped him in the DPS department on their own. Shilonen does, having comparable shred to Virtus and Venera while also being able to run the 40% party-wide damage boost from the most overpowered artifact set in the game. You can also technically use Auroran or Zilali for the same purpose if you want. Overall, the best Novelet team would be himself, Verena, Kazuha, and Shilonen, Auroran, or Zilali. You missed out on the triple passive boost, but it's more than made up for with each character buffing your team's DPS by a staggering amount. Of course, if you have C1 Novelet, you get to have your cake and eat it too. Honestly, so long as you have Verena and 2 other Hydro Reactor elements, you can do whatever the hell you want with this guy. Consistent uptime, high damage, fantastic AoE coverage, and respectable boss killing potential to boot. Novelet's been a consummate presence in the metagame since the day he came out, and he'll continue to remain as such. As per usual, it wouldn't be a Vars top 5 without at least one questionable take, and this one might just be that. The newest character Veressa gets to secure a spot as one of the best teams in the game, quite possibly the goofiest character in Genshin, and that's saying a lot considering how many derpy personalities we have. Veressa's DPS is nothing short of exquisite. Hard to believe this glutton is the one to put Raiden Shogun in her place. Like with most other Natlan units, Veressa's all about personal damage, being another plunging attacker, therefore having good AoE clearing capability like Shao. Her biggest draw though is that she's essentially active at all times, meaning the real limitation is to her party members' buff durations. This makes her incredibly consistent and easy to play. Running Overload on Veressa will put you extremely high in the DPS charts if you have the right characters. On that note, Veressa's best team will be yourself, Mavika playing on-field support, Yan-san who was also released alongside her, and Chevres to power up Overload for the team. You're also more than welcome to play other traditional hypercarry supports like Verena, and as a plunging attacker, Xianyun's always a worthwhile option if you want to pack VV Shred on top of it. Obviously though, you need one other Natlan unit to go along with her just to ensure school is Cinder City, in which case I'd give that honor to her coach. Yeonsan's buffing capability, while a bit more situational, is almost on par with Bennett, but in this party, Cinder City tips her over the edge if there's no one else who can hold it. All in all, Veressa very much embodies the klutzy, food-loving but comically overpowered anime trope you see everywhere. Not only does she dish out more DPS than Shawl, but she's also much more party-friendly to boot, having a decent number of options even when compared to other Natlan attackers. As far as downsides go, there really isn't much. She's just a really solid attacker with all the quality of life features of Genshin's modern character design. Some people might not be a fan of the whole plunging attack playstyle though, but that's more preference than practicality. Next team's gonna be Arleino Hypercarry. Might seem a bit redundant to have 2 pyro attackers on the list, but what are you gonna do when a character's OP, a character's OP? Arleino's kind of like a cross between Natlan and Mavika, having a nice bit of both. On the Mavika side, the Harbinger deals extraordinary amounts of damage, not quite as high as the Pyro Archon, but still really far out there. Vertical investment pays off on her in spades. On the Natlan side, she has the same party flexibility and consistent uptime as the Hydro Sovereign, making her one of the best all-rounder characters in the game. One more benefit is that it is possible to run both the Mavika and Arleino team at the same time if you want. Pinpointing the latter's best team can be tricky as she's able to run a wide variety of formations, but for my money, I'd say the 2 best ones are Traditional Hypercarry and Overload. Traditional Hypercarry entails Kazuha, Solali, and Bennett, self-explanatory I hope, grouping DPS and Shred from Kazuha, shielding, pyro boosting, and Cinder City from Solali, and Bennett because who doesn't want a free 1000 attack? That and also C6. I swear if you guys still haven't activated your C6 on Bennett, I don't know what to tell you at this point. In any case, you can't go wrong with that team. For Overload, we're still using Bennett, but instead including Chevres and then Yeonsan or Fischl for your Electro requirement. Fischl works better for the team, but Yeonsan can work Cinder City, so it depends on if you want ease of use or optimization. Technically, you can still run a double Hydro lineup consisting of her, Xingqiu, Yelan, and Kazuha, but I feel like the other 2 are more stable picks. Realistically though, that's what makes Arleino so good. You can play so many different characters with her that she doesn't have to fight with anyone else for opportunity cost. An excellent fighter with a lot going for her in consistency and value. Last but not least, we have Milani, yet another newcomer to the list and a very powerful one at that. Much like how Mavika prioritizes raw damage while Arleino is all about consistency, Milani shares that dynamic with Natlan, choosing to bet everything all on the big deeps. The key objective for the server is to achieve forward vaporize, capitalizing on the outstanding scaling of her Empower Normal attack and Elemental Burst to one-tap everything around her. In a sense, while Kanish and Chosa prefer to go for quantity, Milani goes for quality. She is bar none the highest HP scalings in the game and a relatively straightforward playstyle to boot. So with that in mind, you'll want herself, Mavika, Shilonen, and Sucrose. Same basic principle, Mavika to tag enemies with Pyro, Shilonen for buffing and debuffing plus sustain, and Sucrose for more buffing and debuffing. Plus the grouping can be helpful if and when you need to clump enemies together for easy tagging with her skill and ultimate. Milani does have AoE, but Sucrose can help out a bit with that, and the extra elemental mastery makes for even bigger vapes. Alternatively, you can switch out Sucrose for Kazuha or C2 Solali for extra hydro damage. The cryo application might trigger melts by accident, but you're still good on that front more or less. Now if you're running this party, you want to put as much DPS on Mavika and Solali as possible because you shouldn't run multiple Cinder Cities. They don't stack after all. Milani would definitely be one of the best front-loaded attackers at the moment, and is remarkably flexible despite her one-dimensional playstyle. I encourage players to make liberal use of her if they have her, even if you're a Natlan spammer. Something I'm sure you've taken notice of throughout the video is that all 7 teams mentioned were hypercarry oriented. That's basically the direction the game's been going in throughout version 4 and 5. We spent a great deal of time on elemental reactions back in versions 2 and 3, so it makes sense that Hoyo is going in a new direction. There's also just a big limitation to going reaction teams in that you can only do so much with them, whereas personal DPS basically has no limits. That's not to imply reaction teams like Bloom, Quicken, Freeze, Overload, Taser, and whatnot can't work, it's just that right now the best attackers in the game all happen to be hypercarries. Mavika, Kanish, Chosa, Milani, and Veressa are all new additions to the video, and they're all from Natlan and are all hypercarry focused. They simply have a higher stat line than the units we're used to from version 4 and prior. All things considered though, by this point we have more than enough teams capable of annihilating what little endgame content Genshin has to offer, so if you're not having any trouble clearing Spiral Abyss with your Child International, All-Atham Quick Bloom, Nilou Bountiful Bloom, Hu Tao Double Hydro, so on and so forth, then you're more than welcome to continue using them. The game may have power crept a lot in terms of characters, but not really in terms of content yet, so instead you can use this video as a way to start a fun side project for a new team. Nonetheless, I hope you found this video insightful. Let me know what other teams you think are worth mentioning in the comments down below. But for now, if you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you'd like to like and subscribe, Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Vars, join my Discord server, and check out my other Genshin Impact videos if you haven't yet. But till next time, thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.